Bhupen Khakhar is even more significant today, perhaps, than he was in his own time. He's a pivotal figure in modern Indian art history, but it's much more than that. He shows us another model for pop, bringing together high and low visual culture, even in the context of artists being so courageous to paint during incredibly difficult times in the formation of their country during the emergency in the mid-1970s. His courage was unparalleled. Bhupen Khakhar was India's first pop artist. He began painting in a pop vein in the late 1960s, extending through the 1970s, and he came out as India's first queer artist in 1981 with his work, You Can't Please All.
Bhupen really was able to plug into a wide and broad international movement that was happening in the 1960s. And that, of course, was known as pop art, a very Western notion. And yet he develops his own vocabulary, his own language, his own style as a self-taught artist, and all of a sudden captures the essence of life in India.
India has a very different relationship to kitsch than the West does, and this is something that he had an intuitive understanding of.
It's so intriguing to see how artists respond to their precise moment in time. For example, Andy Warhol not only looked at the glistening side of America, the capitalism, the fame, the celebrity, commercial products, he also looked at the dark side of American society. Things like death and disasters.
Bhupen's pioneering contribution to Indian art history was his fierceness in blending high and low cultures from the very beginning of his career. He is not afraid to look at high and low, sacred and secular, sacred and profane, because that's the truth of India.
One of the great global cultural products of India is Bollywood, and many Westerners understand and interpret India through the still limited interaction that they have with Bollywood film. Yet, it's widely known, it's celebrated, and it's known for its drama, for its music, for its pageantry, for its color, and its emotions. Bhupen does such a wonderful job of featuring two of the most famous Bollywood actors ever. He literally uses old, large-scale posters used to advertise films as the front part of these works, and then flips them over and paints on the back. You get one very direct delivery of these two Bollywood phenomenon on the front side, but as you turn them around, a narrative starts to unfold.
Bhupen Khakhar's portrayal of Amitabh Bachchan tells us a lot about Bhupen Khakhar himself. We see Amitabh wounded, and we're looking at a work made by Bhupen when he was at the end of his life. He's grappling with illness, and you see Amitabh with blood coming from his face, a gun pointed at the bottom of the silhouette of the body. He's facing issues of his own mortality vis-a-vis the kind of immortality of a figure like Amitabh Bachchan, who is larger than life in India. The work of Rekha presents a stacked narrative where we see at the top a slightly amorphous landscape beneath which is a family scene. There's a scene where you see Bhupen as a painter. You see Bhupen painting within a painting. So there's a multiplicity of narratives and layers of narratives as he's reflecting on his own career. There's an interweaving of tropes that are very familiar from his work, memories from his own life, this kind of reflection of pop culture and Bollywood. In Indian visual culture, cinema and spirituality are interlinked in part because actors can be like gods. And Bhupen takes this very literally in his portrait of Amitabh Bachchan by painting him blue so that he becomes the god Krishna.
We have to remember always that so many of us understand culture through cinema, and also that on the flip side of that, cinema produces culture.
These works are an important memory of a transformative period in India in the 1990s during economic liberalization, increasing sectarian violence, and the world was starting to become more cognizant of the rich cultural practices in India. from cinema to contemporary art. He provides a model for what pop can be in the 21st century and ways that artists can find their own voice amid strife, amid challenging personal conditions, and amid having to balance many different identities in one, which we see artists grappling with again today.